The first serious art piece I bought with my partner, it was, I think it was the day we got permission for a credit card, and I was like, we've got some money. We've got like money to burn.
We're rich.
This is how it works, right?
Hi, I'm George, the co-founder of Bluethumb, and I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is Lauren Egan. She founded her Melbourne-based interior decoration studio in 2018, specialising in beautiful, curated spaces in the residential sector. She's been nominated for the Design File Awards, the IDEA Awards, and the Dulux Colour Awards. She focuses on sourcing furniture, art, soft furnishings, and more to create cohesive and personal homes. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren.
Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to have you. We couldn't wait to dive into the artwork that you've sent through of what you have in your house. What initially sparked your interest in art, and do you remember the first piece of art that you've purchased?
Well, growing up, my parents always had a pretty good art collection, a pretty good eye for art, and you know, it was art in the 90s and things evolve and change, but it was always part of our home. And in terms of the first art piece I bought, the first serious art piece I bought with my partner, it was, I think it was the day we got permission for a credit card, and I was like, we've got some money. We've got like money to burn.
We're rich.
This is how it works, right? And we bought a Michael Muir painting. We've still got it. It's very beautiful. And yeah, it's not one of the ones that I included in today's discussion, but it's one of our first pieces. And yeah, it's a really enduring piece. I really love it.
Amazing. Is Michael, I don't know him, is he a local artist?
Yeah, he's Brisbane-based, I think. Yeah, he does they're Australian landscapes, even though I think he's Scottish-born, and they're quite flat and abstract, but also quite urban kind of takes on Australian landscapes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I love that investment.
I think that's a
Credit card.
great investment.
Let's get some art.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like the right decision.
That's exactly the type of thing I would do, to be honest.
Yeah.
As someone who sells art, it's definitely the right decision.
Oh,
Yeah, do it.
absolutely.
Do it. You should
I think
definitely buy art.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Well, let's talk about some of the art in your home, because George and I are dying to talk about this Toby Rain artwork that you sent through that is like, I like to call an abstract like this really chunky textured and like just thick and like delicious looking. Could you tell us a bit about this artwork?
Yeah, it is quite abstract, and I almost took a picture of it on the side as well, because you can see some really deep kind of strokes through it, and must have taken weeks to dry out. It's actually a girl holding a cat.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
You can see she's got a red bow in her hair.
Oh, yeah, I'm seeing it now.
Yeah. There's a lot of discussion in our house between our children, because you can see a cat in two different ways, I think. And one of our kids is adamant that it's one, and the other is obviously adamant that it's the other. But that was a 40th gift for me from my husband. He did all the research himself. He knew that I quite liked those kind of abstract and really textural pieces. And he, went out on a limb and decided that this was the piece, and it's sort of centre stage in our lounge room, and really beautiful piece. And I think, again, something that's really enduring. I think it's like a piece that doesn't really have a time in the world. So, yeah, we really love that being part of our home.
And gosh, kudos to him for choosing like a work that you'd like as well, because I feel like that's the eternal struggle we get a lot from guests, is like partners never agreeing on the same artwork. So how could they possibly like buy a piece of art together? So I think it's just beautiful. Very, I think Ben Quilty-esque in the style.
Yep.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I think this looks like maybe a palette knife or something. The application it immediately reminded me.
Yeah, absolutely my favourite type of art. And is it quite heavy as well? Or?
Yeah, it is quite heavy. And it's a decent sized piece as well. I think Toby's a New Zealand artist, and I think Glenn actually bought it from a New Zealand gallery and had it shipped across. So,
Fantastic.
really dug into his research there.
I think I had a look. He's actually at James Macon Gallery in Collingwood, I want to say. So there you go.
Go and check it
If
out.
you need another one,
Pop in.
Were you a fan of his art before, or he just knew your taste and went for it without?
Yeah. I hadn't known of Toby before Glenn found that piece, but it was more that he knew the style that I really liked, and he kind of, just dug into it from that point. Yeah, I know. Pretty
Seriously?
brave, but also top job.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge kudos to him.
Hell yeah. Amazing job. So you sent through a cool Rennie Ellis photo. What's actually going on there?
I think it's backstage at a girls' show in Sydney. So, yeah, it's sort of boobs out, a bit risque, but also a beautiful sort of 1970s depiction of King's Cross and what was happening there at the time. And I think Rennie Ellis has this really amazing ability to put people at ease. He must have had a really beautiful kind of relaxed personality, and you can see in all of his photography that he's able to capture sort of the essence of people without being in their face. So that was a piece that we particularly loved, and we bought that reasonably early on in our relationship as well. So Glenn, my partner, is a photographer, so
fantastic.
yeah, he had a real connection to purchasing something in that field. And yeah, Rennie Ellis was just always a perennial fave of both of ours, and we actually called our son Rennie as well.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Not necessarily as like a, direct named after, but we just thought the name was really fun and really cool, and cool story to, to have that attachment to Glenn's profession, and yeah, a person that we felt had, a beautiful sort of chill sort of personality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was vaguely aware of Rennie Ellis, and I did some research when you sent this through. And in my shopping cart actually is his 80s photography book.
Yeah.
I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I do plan to buy it today. Yeah, a fantastic photographer, and grew up sort of locally here in Melbourne, I think.
Yeah, I think he was Melbourne-based,
Yeah.
spent a bit of time in Sydney as well. Yeah, there's a few weird connections after we sort of talked about Rennie quite a bit because of our son. Glenn's mum actually took care of his mum when she was in residential care.
Wow.
Yeah, and Glenn was going to university at the time, and she said, oh, my son's studying photography, and Rennie Ellis's mum said, oh, my son's a photographer. And so there's that kind of curious and
that degree of separation.
Yeah, exactly, which is quite nice. And someone that part of the world that I grew up in, East Gippsland, Rennie Ellis was known around those parts as well because he dated someone in the community for a while. And yeah, so it's weird how when it's a bit local, there's a few people here and there that know who you're talking about and that have those personal stories, which is really nice.
I love that. You haven't sent through any images from your partner, Glenn. Do you have his photography up at home as well?
Yeah, we have a couple of his pieces up. We've got a piece that he did when we visited Ireland, which is where he was born, and sort of some local buildings. His photography is more in the commercial field, and he takes a lot of architectural photography and construction photography. So he's really drawn to the built places. So a lot of his imagery is around sort of built spaces, which is, a nice contrast to some more of the textural painting artworks that we both like as well.
Yeah, for sure. And when you guys are hunting artworks, because you did send us one of this Kate Tucker that's not in your house yet.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So you go to gallery openings quite a bit and things like that?
Yeah.
Is that where you find most of your pieces?
Yeah, I think being in the interiors world, I also get a lot of emails of gallery openings, and so kind of get a feel for what artists are around, and that means that I've got a bit of a feel for local artists that make me happy. And the Kate Tucker piece was one that when I saw that she was exhibiting, I was like, okay, we got to go and check this one out. And yeah, I've always admired her work, and I was excited to snag one at her current exhibition.
I love the frame on it. So different. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, we were talking to Kate at the exhibition opening, and part of her work is about there being sort of a limitlessness to the piece. So it extends to the frames and also including different elements inside of artworks. So this piece has a sculpture that sits inside the artwork, and she also builds small sculptures and then puts artwork on top of those. So it's about the blurring the lines between what is the art piece and what is the structure that's surrounding it. And yeah, it's a really interesting way of looking at how art plays in a space, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does she describe herself as a painter or a sculptor?
I think, one of the things she said to us is that she doesn't like rules. So
Okay. She doesn't like labels.
So she's
an artist, yeah. And a lot of her work is sort of layered pieces as well. She paints a lot of it and then pulls them apart and then puts them back together in different formats. So it's not even a specific sort of, flat painting either. So, yeah, really cool process. And really, really cool to talk to the artist and get their take on it rather than just kind of go, I like how the whole piece comes together. It's really interesting to know what was difficult about it and what sort of made her push her boundaries a little bit further in a piece.
For sure.
What's the actual, is that canvas that it's on, or is that? sort of painted clay?
It's canvas, and she's taken inspiration from leather, and she's painted a version of the leather onto canvas and kind of got it so that it looks as much like the piece of leather that she had in her studio. And then she has laid that with other pieces that she's made, and then created also the little section where the sculpture sits.
Yeah,
I think that was sort of a personal challenge of hers, was how to make that look like it's floating in the space without it sort of sitting in a little pedestal in the space. And then, so it's lots of sort of canvas layers sort of flattened and laid on top of each other to create that kind of texture.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really fun, isn't it? And, one of those pieces that you kind of double take because you don't realise that there's a 3D element to it as well.
Absolutely.
Where's it going to go in the house?
Yeah, so we're building a house at the moment.
Oh, cool.
And I had a vision in my mind where it was going to go, sort of down the kitchen dining area, and you look down a hallway and there's a wall right there at the end that you kind of would move towards. But then when she was talking about the leather element in the art piece, I was like, it could be really fun to play on what was influencing her art and then put it in a space that has a similar influence. So now I'm a bit in two minds about where it's going to go, whether it's going to go in the bedroom or whether it's going to go in the hallway there.
The beauty is it could go both over
I
time.
Can move. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to have them move around.
Yeah.
So I read a kind of deep dive on your renovation of a lovely looking 1920s bungalow home, but you're building a new house as well?
Yeah, so that home we sold in 2021.
Okay.
Right at the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was like the last lockdown, and we sold it in the October after the last lockdown, which was pretty intense because there was still a lot of restrictions on who was going in and out of homes. And we've been planning this house that we're renovating now for the last couple of years. So, yeah, we've been rental hopping in between, but that house was a real joy to create. And, yeah, it was really sort of sad to say goodbye to it, but it just felt really like we needed a new challenge. COVID does weird things to people, and you sometimes just need to push yourself out of a space, I think. Yeah.
Cool.
Did you enjoy the renovation process?
Yeah, we're those weird people that really enjoy renovating.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah. We lived in the home last time we renovated, but this time we're not doing that because it's not a knockdown, but essentially there was just sort of sticks and a roof left for this one, so there's nowhere to sleep. But last time we did a lot of it ourselves. We were sort of renovated in 2 stages, and I guess there's a sense of achievement in doing stuff with your own hands and finding people that can help you achieve the vision that you want. And it's a great practice for me being in interiors to understand how things are done and apply what I know in a book sense to a practical sense. So, yeah, it's something we like to do.
It must be a very nice feeling to come home to the house that you've planned and renovated and kind of walk across the threshold every day.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoy the space.
Yeah, it's something we miss at the moment, being rentals. Even though it's got, all of our stuff in it, it does feel kind of like probably wouldn't do that way, or I probably wouldn't have, the aspect of the house facing this way. So it's really fun to put your own stamp on something. And the renovation we're doing at the moment, even though we tore a lot of it down, the fact that the essence of the house is still going to be there at the front of the home and have that sort of streetscape is really nice element as well. It's almost like sort of saving a home and creating something beautiful at the back end of the house, but having a, something, it's a twin house. So the house next door is the mirror image of our house. So it's nice to keep those two in the same space.
For sure.
Nice. And how does your existing art collection fit into a renovation? Have you thought about where the pieces that we're talking about that you love are going to go when you're planning the renovation, or you do the reno and then you find a spot for the art?
I think a little bit of both. There's a couple of pieces that I know are going to have a little special spot, and then another couple that I'll probably have to have a little play around and see where they go. And it's the same with the furniture. I think I've got a couple of things that I know exactly where they're going to go, and then another few pieces that I sort of will have to test in the space a little bit more, which is kind of fun because if you sort of come in with a grid and a plan, it can feel a little bit not loose enough, I guess, to how you want to live.
Yeah.
Lauren, you often work with clients to source furniture and art that fit their personal style. Do you find your own personal style influences the type of art you're drawn to, or do you try to channel their taste when you're searching?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I guess I am drawn to the artists that I am aware of, but I'm creating someone else's home. So I do have to kind of do a bit of mind separation. I think there's a bit of a creep, which is normal because people are coming to me for
sure.
my services because they like my style. But yeah, often I find art in particular, you know, that is a very personal choice, much more so than furniture and fabrics. So it is a space where I would be more led by the client than necessarily pushing a piece. And I don't think I would ever push a piece on somebody because it's something that's going to endure, and I don't want to put something in their home that they're going to sort of look at every time and go, I was a bit iffy about this and I'm still a bit iffy about it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
Square peg, round hole, that's not going to work. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you had projects where the client's taste in art is completely different to yours and you've had to kind of go down a rabbit hole of discovering and like opening your mind to art that you wouldn't normally kind of have yourself? Yeah,
definitely. And then there's some clients where they have an existing art collection and I'm sort of not necessarily drawn to it, but you just have to find that middle ground where it's their space and what they love. And if they're offering you suggestions, then you really have to sort of run with those a lot more than feeling like I need to guide them in another direction. So, I think in particular, I'm more confident in pushing furniture ideas around and demonstrating how they might feel in a space. But because art is so personal, I probably wouldn't try and persuade them to do something different.
Sure. And how do you actually find art when you have a residential kind of client? Where do you look?
I probably start mostly online and then have a look around the galleries that I think befit the budget and the style of the client. I might go to the gallery myself, but more often than not, I'd probably send a list of 5 galleries to my clients and say, you know, which ones of these are you kind of feeling, and then would go and visit them together and see what's either in the stock room or what exhibition's going on at that current time and get a feel for what they're drawn to. Budget is always a part of it as well. You know, we go to the most amazing gallery and spend $100,000, but that's just not reality. And you do have to sometimes buy multiple pieces of art. And so sometimes there's, you know, the lower end budget plus a couple of high to mid end budget pieces. So it's really kind of a bit of a jigsaw and fitting in what they want the space to look like and what you can get for that amount.
Gosh, I like that part of your job, that art consulting kind of side almost.
Yeah, it is. It is really fun. Yeah, and I guess, you know, there's always so much to learn as well. There are people that do that as a sole sort of practice, but it's a nice add-on to what I can do as well.
Absolutely.
And with art on a budget, like we love art on a budget here.
Yep.
Do you have any tips in general for, you know, if someone was starting out collecting, you know, have just got their first credit card? Any tips about getting started?
I think it just has to really pull on a heartstring. So I think, you know, going around and seeing what those pieces are that make you feel really happy, and it doesn't need to fit into an exact space. I don't like to choose art and then draw colours from that art piece for the cushions and that kind of thing. I think, you know, they can live independently. So if you really love a piece, I think that's the reason why you should buy it, and you should just go for it because YOLO. You may as well kind of like surround yourself with things that you love and make you feel happy.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that philosophy.
Yeah, same. Are there any artists that are on your radar right now to buy that you don't have that you're like, I need a piece by them?
Yes. They're all very annoying and expensive and excellent. No, I appreciate their time and effort and the work goes into it. The Kate Tucker piece was one that I've had on my radar for a long time, so I'm really sort of chuffed to get that. There's, I think she's Sydney-based. Her name's Yana Pascoe-White. She does a similar kind of collage style or sort of layering of paper-based materials on top of each other. They're quite big and expansive pieces. I really just love, again, the sort of limitlessness of those pieces and the way it sort of feels. I'd love Eleanor Louise Butt. I think her...
I've heard of her.
Yeah, her artwork's really beautiful and she's sort of exploring some more metallic kind of work with some bronze sort of pieces. So, yeah, they're all quite textured pieces and, not too literal kind of artistic scenes, that kind of thing. So, yeah, and it's interesting to see how your tastes change over time, but some of the beauty of buying art along your sort of journey in life is that you remember the time that you bought that piece and it still has a place, but as your tastes change, so will the pieces around you. But I think that's nice to have that kind of not necessarily getting rid of the old and bringing in the new all the time. And it's just kind of layered and, representation of how you've lived.
Yeah. And, from the pieces you've sent and these ones you've described that you want, they're actually, I can see a cohesion in your taste.
The same
for
thing.
art, which isn't actually that common amongst. So, it's kind of interesting. Have you ever thought that you're a cohesive collector or?
I think I've got a good eye and I just know what I like and I know it makes me feel good and I kind of just trust my gut. So, that's interesting to hear you guys say because, all of the pieces I sort of think about a long time before I, pull the trigger, and I guess there's something that I love about all of them. Yeah.
But they're also different as well. Like you've got photography, you've got these abstracts, you've got this Guido Mastri landscape, which is really beautiful. I see the texture in that. So you obviously do like that. And then you've got these Sydney Nolan sketches, which are almost kind of graphic in a way. But it all just kind of works.
Yeah. And I think there is an element of Australianness about them as well.
Good point,
The colours seem Australian to me.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm drawn to very earthy colours. I do a lot of work with paint colours in my interiors world. And I think that is sort of something that I'm initially drawn to straight away. So there's probably an element of that. Yeah, and then, it's nice to have that contrast with something that's a bit more graphic and a little bit more sort of structured. But I like kooky things as well. So
I really like these Sydney Nolan sketches are just so not what I expect of him, but I really like them in their simplicity as well.
Yeah.
What are they of?
I think the top one is an eye and the bottom one's a tree.
Yeah,
cool.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what drew you to these pieces?
I just thought it would be like a really cool flex.
I've got some Nolans, in the back somewhere.
That's right.
I love it.
There's a bit of that. But I loved how simplistic they were and how you can just interpret what they are. So I think they're like a study as well for something that's, larger. And they were just bought through a Leonard Joel auction.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And
I love them.
They were $600 each, I think. And it's just like a cool piece to have on the wall that's just really simple and I think enduring as well. Like, it's just a cute little sort of graphic piece that's got a nice frame around it. And
I have Leonard Joel Thursdays in my calendar every week.
Me too.
I love their auctions.
I know. Just put a cheeky bit on there every now and then.
Just maybe someone won't get it as well, so I might get it. Yeah.
I did one last week. I lowballed it and I didn't get it, but
bugger. I just wonder, maybe it's better to do it when you think it might be like an eternally quiet day in Australia. So the day before grand final Thursday.
Melbourne Cup Day.
Melbourne Cup Day,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, find pieces you connect with at bluethumb.com.au. Unlock the power of art and turn your house into a home.
Let's talk a little bit about your studio that you founded in 2018. You've been running it for many, many years and there's a lot you could talk about. What's, I guess, the biggest lesson you've sort of taken from running that and doing that?
I think, so I came from a corporate background prior to going into the interiors world. I used to work in food science and project management and marketing.
Wow. That's the obvious next step.
Yeah, exactly.
Interior
just a
decoration.
sidestep into interiors. But there was always a drive to actually move into interiors. I just sort of had found myself in this space. But, sometimes a little shift in life is the right thing. Probably the biggest thing I miss from working in my old environment is that I work with, people every day, and I had a lot of, chatter over the water fountain, that kind of making a cup of tea and getting to know people. And that's the thing that I felt like I was lacking in my design business. And otherwise, I've found the transition to be really enjoyable and beautiful, and I feel like I've found the thing that I love to do. But I think what I needed to do to make my business more successful was to find a bit of a community amongst the interiors world, which was tricky coming in from a different field of work. So the thing that I've learnt most is that you need to open yourself up to different people and different opportunities and seek your own community to push yourself along. So yeah, even though I work by myself in my studio, I need to have that kind of external information coming in to make me feel really energized and push my work along. So that might be through clients, that might be through connections that I make in the world of photography or the world of styling, or going to events and meeting with fellow kind of designers that are on a similar journey to me. And yeah, it's been a really cool thing to do, to set up your own business. And it's been a tricky time to do it because there was a couple of years of lockdown for a while. But yeah, it's something that I've felt like was the right place for me.
And how did you build that community starting from like scratch?
So initially my partner and I ran a photography co-working space in Clifton Hill, and so we met a lot of small businesses through that, so architecture firms and landscape architecture firms, Mud Office, Project 12, some of the businesses that were in there, and we work with them on projects now. But also this group of stylists, which was a really interesting way to get into the interiors side of things, because they have a different take on interiors that is kind of the finished product rather than the building up of someone's home. But there are synergies there. So I guess, learning from them how they see that world of interiors was a really cool way for me to get a foothold in there. And then it's meeting other people that are more in the interior decoration side of the business. And I think it's really important that I've had some great connections. I work a lot with another designer called Alison Lewis, and she's been a really great person for us to sort of bounce off of each other. We both run our own businesses and we're the only people in our businesses, but we live quite close to each other. So it's good to like have someone that you can download to and share experiences with.
That's lovely. Lauren, you've been nominated for some quite prestigious design awards, like the Design File Awards and the Dulux Colour Awards. What have these nominations meant for you and your business?
I think as much as anything, they're a bit of a validation that you're on the right track and you're doing things that people sort of can see relevant and good and some strong quality work. And so that feels really nice to be recognised for, especially that colour work. I think that's something that is really important to me and something that I find comes quite naturally and I think is really fun. I mean, to be a colour consultant is just like a really cool job title.
Very cool.
I think it's just, and that sort of lends itself to the Dulux Colour Awards, and some of the IDEA awards were the Colour Awards as well. So yeah, it's just that kind of validation from the industry that you're on the right track.
What just came out? Was it the Dulux Colour of the Year? Did that just come out?
Yeah, they've done their launch like a month or so ago.
Yeah. What's after that?
What's next
coming?
year's? Yeah. I think that earthy tone is still apparent in all of the colours that are coming out, but that people are really open to using a lot more depth of colour these days. I rarely specify a white anymore, and I very rarely specify coal colours. So even if you specify a blue or a green, it's kind of got that gritty kind of slight brown undertone to it, even like a slight red undertone to it that has the warmth in it. So I think we're still in that kind of warm tone zone, but people are way more confident with going that couple of depths further in sort of a mid-range tone colour and even like a really deep colour, and painting out rooms from skirting boards up to the ceilings all in the one kind of colour, drenched colour. So I think that's still going to happen for a few years yet. Yeah. And I think we're probably moving from some of those more yellow tones into some browner tones and even into lots of oranges.
Ooh.
Cool.
Oranges.
All right. Orange. Haven't heard that one. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Orange.
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah. I feel like that's sort of, like they're hard to do, but when you get them right, they're really good.
No, look, we're just relieved to leave the neutrals behind.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, definitely. There's definitely a place for having a neutral, but it's got to be the right undertone.
Yeah.
It can't be that kind of cool, cold, blue, grey, black undertone.
Yeah.
Feels like there's more colour that I see from the outside.
Yeah, I think whether it's tone or whether it's depth, there's definitely more colour and people are way more open to it and painting out one room different to another room, or having, I sometimes talk to a client in sort of a 60-30-10 rule, where 60% of the space is in like a nice calming neutral, and then 30% is in one or two colours that's got a little bit more personality. So it might be like a dirty purple or a bit of a teal with a nice sort of earthy undertone to it. And then maybe you've got a woohoo colour on some cabinetry or in a bathroom that only gets used occasionally by guests, so you can have a bit of like that moment of, going into a cool space. It's just a bit more memorable, but people are way more open to that these days than they were sort of 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, 10% go crazy.
Yeah, I like that
Why
breakdown.
not? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I just feel like it's a post-COVID thing. You want to live a bit more. You you want your space to be bigger and more personal.
Yeah, especially with paint.
Go for it.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it yourself. It's not particularly expensive. It's a bit of time and a bit of effort and a bit of outlay, but it's easy to change as well. So it's not like, changing joinery or marble or
for sure.
tiles or anything like that. So, yeah.
Do you have a go-to kind of social account, blog, podcast, or even book that you'd recommend for design inspiration or discovering new stuff that we might not have heard of or that you love particularly?
Yeah, I still love a physical magazine. So I really love The World of Interiors. That's just a really cool monthly that comes out. It doesn't feel like it's from one specific place. There's, lots of cool inspiration from all over the world. So I think that's a really great magazine, and we've got to support local mag life. So I think it's really important to check out what's going on in the local world. So whether it be Vogue Living or Belle, Design Files have put out a new magazine.
Yes.
So supporting all of those guys with their, new endeavours. So a bit sad, like Inside Out recently closed the doors. So
did it now?
Yeah.
Oh, bugger.
Yeah.
I do like their stuff.
Yeah. So, if we don't support them, then they're probably not going to be able to maintain what they do. So that's really important to me. I spend way too much time on Instagram.
Any accounts there that sort of...
I think I just loved following all the local and international. I'm really avid saver of posts as well, so that I can go back into them. And part of my process in communicating what I want someone's home to look like is with lots of visual imagery. So I need to have that sort of stash of like cool projects that are in my Instagram saved files to show them what I think their space could look like. So who's sort of inspiring me on Instagram at the moment? I think Flax Studio do everything.
Oh, they're so cool.
Yeah. And as someone that's really, really into colour and depth of tone, they just do that in quite a magical way.
Did you see his house in Richmond when it went on? I think it was Design Files. Oh.
Yeah. I didn't go around to see it, but...
I just saw this article and I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. Everything they do is pretty special.
Oh, so cool.
Very thoughtful. Yeah, and I do still look at lots of design books as well. I mean, my kids probably tease me because there's lots of them on the coffee table that don't get opened very often, but everything's kind of recycled these days. There's something that has happened 20, 30, 40 years ago that's beautiful and relevant again today. And I think using some of that inspiration from yesteryear makes a space feel a little bit more timeless. So I do take a little bit of inspiration from cool projects from Gio Ponti books or, really beautiful old Italian design, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the conversation pits to come back from mid-century houses.
Yeah, they're here.
Are they? Are they back?
Sure. Yeah. There's lots of pits around. Yeah. I've been to like maybe 3 or 4 houses that have got, like sunken lounges.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
just makes the TV really hard to place.
I'm sure.
What too?
Well, it's a conversation pit. You're meant to stare at each other in a pit.
But that's the new way of doing it.
The
It's good to
vibe
have a
is
TV.
still having the TV. Yeah.
Well, you lower it down and up.
You have to lower it. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we already talked about colour trends. Any other interior trends that you think are on the precipice that might be popping up that you want to talk about?
Yep. They kind of go a little bit hand in hand, but sort of glossy textures and metals, I think, are going to be sort of a little bit more prominent. So metals in joinery, metals in unexpected kind of spaces, and often quite the combination of both glossy and brushed surfaces. Yeah, I think I see like a lot of metals coming through from just what people have seen in Milan in the last few years as well. And glossy in terms of maybe it's a metal, but also maybe it's like glossy paints, glossy surfaces, lacquered surfaces, and that kind of juxtaposition between a matte surface and a glossy surface. So maybe it's a timber plus a metal shelf or something like that, where you can see the two different finishes playing off of each other a little bit more obviously. So yeah, metals and gloss is what I can see in the next couple of
I
years.
like the sound of it.
Oh, yeah, not me.
Yeah.
I've got little kids.
Yeah. Rounded edges. Yeah.
Just
Up
see
high.
handprints.
Yeah, totally.
Gloss.
Totally.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Fantastic. All right. Well, last question. What else is cooking? What's next for you in your studio?
We've got a couple of big projects sort of cooking away this year that I'm hoping that will sort of come to the limelight next year. One's a really amazing project in Bendigo. Yeah, it's a beautiful space. It's really different to what I've done previously. Very pulled back and minimalist aesthetic, but they have the most amazing art collection and they've been collecting for years and they have an incredible eye. So it's going to be a space where everything is pulled back and the art takes forefront, which is going to be really beautiful to see. And I had no influence on the art collection whatsoever. They already had all of those beautiful things already, which is great inspiration for me to do a project. And then my house will be ready to go sometime sort of around March. Yeah, so I think there'll be a lot of nervousness on one side just because you're kind of putting yourself out there a little bit, but it's really fun to just show what you can do with your limits and how you kind of see a space without it being, something that somebody else has got an influence on. I love all my clients and I love working with them, but it's really cool to do my own version of it as well.
For sure.
Oh, that's super exciting.
We can't wait to see it.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to do the follow-up.
Yeah, come around. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Lauren. It's been a great
Lauren.
chat.
Yeah, thanks guys. It's been awesome.
If you love art and hearing collectors' stories, please share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to follow the show, rate and review to help make the pod more visible. We acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.